Happy Halloween, everybody. I was gonna do a FNAF jump scare for the video, but I thought that would be very inappropriate. Truth be told, I haven't slept in like 18 hours, so I'm a little bit tired, but it feels like my body's being possessed. I guess it's because it's
Spooky season today.
But anyway, welcome back to the channel run by your favorite 4'12" YouTuber. Today, I got something a little bit special for you guys. Usually when Halloween rolls around, I kind of do what everyone else does, you know, watch a horror movie, pee my pants, wear some of my spooky pajamas, pretend to be 13, and go trick-or-treating again, just the usual stuff. But this year, I wanted to spice things up a little bit and do something that I've never done before, which is watch an anime horror film. I don't know about you guys, but I've watched a lot of horror movies, all of Insidious, all of Annabelle, what's the other ones? Conjuring. They all use like the same actors for some reason. Despite my love for horror, anime doesn't really have a lot of scary things. The only thing that I've read that was somewhat scary was like Junji Ito stuff, but that's kind of it. And the anime adaptations for that is dog shit. So needless to say, I already had very, very low expectations when I looked up anime horror movie. But one movie did catch my eye. And of course, like always, not because this movie was good. That's not why it caught my eye. Because I believe that this movie is actually the worst rated horror anime scary movie. Wow, that's a lot of words. I was actually browsing on my anime list when I found the worst rated horror anime scary movie. And this movie is called Ao Oni, the animation. It turns out it's from a game of the same name. Apparently, Markiplier played it about 11 years ago, which is almost the same age as I am. And also turns out there's a bunch of live action movies, which I'm not gonna go into. I'm pretty positive it's its own terrible rabbit hole. But hey, since it's spooky season, I wanted to celebrate and might as well bust out the mystery van and investigate why Ao Oni, the animation, is the worst anime horror movie scary film out there. And of course, before this video starts, I didn't forget, every single video I like to offer my subscribers a little gift, you know, just a little token of appreciation. And today I offer thy a toast. I don't really have alcohol, so I'm gonna use a water bottle, but a toast to drugless candy. You know, growing up, I feel like people actually want drugged up candy, but so the movie starts off with three boys falling asleep in a cottage out in the woods while looking out for a monster. And the first thing that shocked me in this movie is like, whoa, dude, you fell asleep and you guys left the candle on? Like, what if it falls over because, you know, you guys like kick in your sleep? And secondly, have you guys noticed that they're all just the same person? Like, the only thing that's different is their voice actors and their clothes. To be honest, it's just gonna be how like Japanese kids were to like back in the day. Like, that's just how all of them had their hair cut, like how today every single Asian guy that I run into has a perm. But a part of me feels like that it's just the movie cutting some of their budgeting costs by just duplicating the same model like it's Roblox and just swapping the default clothing settings like a Wii character. Anyway, the three boys heard a weird noise outside and went to go investigate, and they find out that their fourth missing friend was out there. The subtitle is wrong here. But the three boys end up finding their missing friend's torn kimono with blood on it. Immediately, they start freaking out after realizing, you know, it's blood, and they just start straight booking it. And honestly, dude, props to them. Is it just me, or like every single survival instinct in modern day horror movies of side characters are just better than the main characters? But even though the survival instincts of the side characters are better, they always die because they're side characters. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure you can think of like any movie where the main character can just look at the monster for like a solid 5 to 10 seconds for like that dramatic buildup in the theater, and they still get away. Yet some of the side characters just book it immediately, but they get like insta-killed in like 2 seconds, like a zombie is insta-killed. I mean, I guess it makes sense because I heard that they kill the actors in real life to make it look real. But while the three boys are running, one of the boys ends up tripping on this branch. And honestly, I'll give it to you. Sometimes I find these really hard to believe, like, I don't know, just jump over it. But dude, if I was in that situation, I wouldn't even be running. I would be prancing and skipping. If you're in the woods, you know how many stakes can be on the ground? There's no way I'm taking that risk. But anyway, the boy that fell down ends up leaving their fire hazard of a lamp on the ground of the forest and just starts slowly walking back to his friends. We're gonna ignore that. The boy ends up noticing that the lights aren't moving of his friends, and he peeks over the tree. There's obviously gonna be a big reveal, and so this is the shot that we get. I'm so sorry to cut it before the monster reveal, but the way that it's animated just makes it look like he's just mildly surprised. And the thing is, I don't even think it's the animator's fault for doing that. I think it's just the terrible art style that they went with. If you can't tell, the entire movie is going to be in CGI, and I'm not sure whether it was a creative decision or a budget direction decision. I mean, to be fair, animation was way more amazing and impressive back in the day. Time genuinely really is an amazing thing. I mean, look at video games nowadays. So who knows, maybe for the time the animation was really good. Oh, on the topic of 3D animations, even if you don't like worship or appreciate 3D animations, it's kind of impressive how much they've advanced over the years. Like, I can't really name like animations off the top of my head that are like on YouTube because that was something that I watched back in the day. But then again, I feel like a good metric for like seeing how 3D animations have grown is just looking at Overwatch porn ads. And honestly, it's kind of got me thinking, like, I feel like this movie was animated this way, not necessarily because of a budget as well, but I feel like the creative direction, because technically the monster is in this style, like this art form. Like, even in the game, the monster was depicted as like a walking PNG. So I feel like it's not too far-fetched to say that the animation style was kind of influenced by how the monster looked, but I also feel like it's mainly budget constrained. Anyway, the final kid ends up getting away before screaming. I don't know why you're screaming. The monster's right there. And we cut to a modern day student club room of our main cast. We're actually talking about the story in modern day times. Now, I know I've been dogging on the terrible CGI, but I feel like now is where the CGI really shines. This is our main cast of characters, and this is where the character design really stands out. Some of them aren't so bad. They just kind of look like generic characters, but some of them look absolutely dog shit. For example, this guy with a ponytail, who I'm going to refer to as the wide face upperclassman. Why the hell is his mouth the width of his entire face? I don't think like, this is the most that I could do, and I feel fucking stupid. I can't even talk properly. This is what he looks like. You know what? I kind of dig the look. You can call me the giggler. So serious. Anyway, so the current story is that the club is deciding on a folktale to research. I think for like a student festival, I'm not gonna lie, the plot points I've noted down in my Google Docs are a little bit foggy. I think my brain turned off when I was like watching this movie about like 5 minutes in. So some of the plot points I had to like rewatch and kind of go on the wiki to kind of get down. But my understanding is this is the Cultural Anthropology Club. I don't know what that even means. And they had to decide on a folktale to research for their student festival. And they ended up choosing the Ao Oni folktale after the Ao Oni game in their respective universe blew up. Their school is also in front of where the Ao Oni folktale took place. And since the game was blowing up, they decided to reach out to the author to gather more information about the Ao Oni story, since the folktale literally takes place there. As everyone's deciding on who in the group is going to go meet the author, I think I rewatched this movie about 2 times and I still don't know anyone's names except for like a handful. I genuinely think that I'm just so turned off from the character designs that my brain is just recognizing these people as just pure neurological mush, and it's just unnecessary information. But for some reason my brain remembers like y equals mx plus b, so I guess that's essential information for me. But long story short, to dumb out the characters and like make it easier for me to refer back to them, I got some nicknames. And so welcome to our cast of characters. We have the student president, I'm gonna call her president, the Mr. Generic main character design, the twin tail pony girl, the random teacher in the back that's kind of important but not really, an actual Wii character, and of course Senpai Widemouth. Now, Senpai Widemouth actually has the most screen time, and I actually kind of like him. He's kind of like that woke lady playboy trope of a character, and he's kind of a little bit of a creep, but not too creepy, I guess. He offers to go with the student council president to go see the author of the Ao Oni game because, I don't know, she's a girl. But anyway, he has to deliver something to the school nurse. While walking to the nurse's office, we pass by one of the characters in the story, Tachibana. I actually know this guy's name because something crazy happens to him later. But long story short, we're not supposed to like this guy. Well, I think it's more accurate to say that wide-faced senpai doesn't like this guy. And personally, I think he's jealous. Senpai Widemouth ends up talking to the nurse, and the nurse notices that he has like cigarettes on him, so she takes the lighter and the cigarettes away from him. Base teacher. They have a brief conversation about what the club is planning on doing with the Ao Oni story, and then generic MC goes ahead and picks him up. But just as they're about to leave, Senpai Widesmile is, I think, jealous or something. Apparently there's a rumor that Tachibana, which was that guy that he passed in the hallway, is sleeping with every single girl in school. So he proposes that both of them go question Tachibana, which personally doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you're just gonna go up to this guy and ask if he's sleeping with every girl in the school? Not to play devil's advocate, but that's not really your business. And also, maybe he's not even trying to sleep with every girl. Maybe he just really likes Pokemon, you know? Gotta catch them all. Not talking about girls, I'm talking about STDs. But anyway, Tachibana is a member of the chemistry club and the only sole member, and so they have a club room. Generic MC and wide-faced senpai end up going to the chemistry club room, which is in this long, suspicious hallway that is fit for a Dark Souls boss. But the room is locked because apparently Tachibana, like I said, is the sole member, so he keeps it locked to have anyone just not go in. And I've actually noticed this in a lot of anime, and it really does blow my mind. As someone that lives in the United States, it really is just insane that Japan just gives their students like free reign over their rooms and like after school activities. Like, obviously I know that I'm talking about this through like a lens of whose knowledge about like school life is like entirely based off of anime. That's like the equivalent of like non-US people thinking that America has like car shifting robots because the only movie they watch is Transformers. But just the idea of like students having entire rooms in a school just to themselves and they can just like let themselves out at like 6 to 7 p.m. is just absolutely wild to me. Like, I just don't get like why you would want to stay in school like that long, involuntarily that long. I mean, to be fair, we do have school shootings. They end up finding a key to the room and they break in, but all they can find is a large empty room with a big canister for a purple flower. I don't know why I said big like that. The two of them notice a locked door in the back with an extended room, and the room is completely dark, so you can't even see the end of the hallway. And the first thing they try to do is unlock it, which, you know, what the hell? Who in their right minds would just go try to unlock the most suspicious room in the school? And after opening the suspicious room, you find a cage in the suspicious room and you try to open the cage. This actually reminds me of the time when I went over my friend's house when I was in 6th grade. And I think we wanted like an Xbox controller or just something. But the problem was the thing that we wanted was in the basement. And, you know, us being, you know, little kids, we went into the basement, just the two of us, and we're like freaking each other out. But as we got deeper and deeper into the basement, we saw, I think, what looked like a handprint. And we just like dipped immediately. Looking back, I'm pretty sure it was just like water damage to the ceiling, but no amount of money is worth losing your life to a monster living in a basement. And that's what's going on here. Why the fuck are you trying to open the cage? All of a sudden, of course, you know, this is a horror movie. We know what's going on. No surprises here. We cut to what I think is the Ao Oni's vision in the basement, looking at the boys, and Widemouth Senpai ends up trying to make a joke to the generic MC, asking him if he heard some noise. And right here, my friends, is where peak character design comes in. And all he does is a straight face. I feel so bad for the people that are actually like working on this film. Imagine trying to depict uncertainty, you know, fear. Maybe their lip is quivering onto someone's face, but the only settings that you have is the Wii custom menu settings to change their facial features. They end up leaving the basement where they get a call from their president. And this is where the plot starts to pick up. The president ends up telling generic MC that their trip to see the author of Ao Oni is canceled. And the reason for that is because the author committed suicide. The club ends up having a discussion about potentially changing their topics because the only connection that they had to the Ao Oni folktale is now gone. And also they start bringing up some speculation. Why is he dead? Perhaps he was murdered. The club ends up formulating a different plan. They realize that if they could find the original tape of the story being recited out loud, then they could theoretically have the complete story for their Ao Oni project. And so in order to do that, they have to track down past club members to see if they have the tape for the story, which honestly is a pretty smart idea. And also kind of cool. Like when I was in high school, the only club that I was in was like a cultural club, and the only thing that we had like memories wise from the past years was $0 in our treasury box. The group ends up finding an older club member who agrees in helping them with their project. They end up finding out that even though he wasn't directly connected with getting the Ao Oni tape files, he did know the two people that actually were getting the story details. Apparently when the story was being recited, there was two upperclassmen and like a guy with like a weird accent. Apparently with some memory issues, the old club member remembered that back then the club president Sekuguchi, that's a crazy name by the way, the club president at the time, which was named Sekuguchi, 15 years ago had killed his wife and disappeared. The other upperclassman at the time that was recording the tape with him was named Fukuda, but since he changed his name after a wedding, they don't really know where he is. Now I'm not gonna lie, I'm definitely skipping out on a lot of details because the storytelling in this show is just so hard to keep up with. I'm telling you, my brain just keeps turning off. I swear to God, I had to rewatch this 3 times to figure out why they were even here. But just to recap everything, because I know it's getting a little bit confusing, at least for me by the way. When they met the upperclassmen, he ends up giving them the tape, and on the tape are the 2 voices of the 2 previous upperclassmen and how one of them killed his wife and the other one is like disappeared. Anyway, the group ends up playing the tape in order to listen to the original story, but the villager or whoever is telling the folktale has a really thick accent, and so because of that, the club members don't understand what he's saying. They end up going back to school with the tape, and they realize that the nurse is from the area and could probably understand what they're saying, but when they get to the nurse's office, it's too late because it's locked, so she probably went on home, which isn't really much of a problem, you know, just wait till tomorrow. But no, that's not necessarily. Apparently our wide-faced senpai just knows that she's nearby. And how does he know? Well, he can apparently smell her from that far. And oh and behold, she's at the front of the building. Honestly, dude, crazy sense of smell. He should be a superhero. If he was a superhero, he'd be like Daredevil. If Daredevil was a creep and he covered his mouth instead of his eyes because his mouth is so long. They end up convincing the nurse to listen to the tape. And while they were going to the club room, they end up passing Tachibana in the hallway. When they play the tape, apparently the nurse doesn't understand anything on it. And then all of a sudden, a thunderstorm starts taking place right before Tachibana was about to leave. And this freakazoid just touches the rain like a JoJo villain. And we cut back into the group at the council room. Now, just a little warning, this is where the story gets pretty crazy. I can't really promise a lot of action, like you're not going to see Naruto bust out the shadow clone jutsu, but I will say the vibe of the first half hour of the movie is very different from the second half. It kind of reminds me of like the horse painting. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. I'll probably put like a picture here or here. One of the girls needs to go to the bathroom, which is twin ponytails. And while she goes into the bathroom, the power mysteriously goes out. And then immediately, all of a sudden, the monster's walking around, and for some reason, the sound effect that they use, I'm sorry, but it sounds like a wet cum sock. I get it, maybe the monster's like a gooey blob of like melted rice, but I'm pretty sure whoever was just in the sound department just gave up. I'm pretty sure they knew that no one was gonna be watching this fucking dog shit movie. Now, this is one of the parts of the movie that I really dislike. Widemouth Senpai ends up going after her because the lights went off, and probably he's the only one that could find her. He can sniff her out. But as the monster is getting closer to Twin Tail Pony Girl, I think it's pretty obvious to say that whatever is outside of the stall, that it's not a regular person. But for some reason, when the monster starts like rhythmically banging on the bathroom door, this girl starts talking out of nowhere, asking who's there. Like, dude, shut the fuck up. Initially, I thought that like maybe this was just in her head. Like she's just thinking all of this. Like she's just thinking that it's a prank or trying to convince herself that it's a prank. But the thing is, usually animes use an echo to depict that, or like reverb or something. And even if she was saying it out loud or not saying it out loud, eventually Widemouth Senpai ends up going to rescue her. And as he's calling out for her, she talks out loud. Shut the fuck up. Like there's only one thing on earth that I hate more than dumb people. And that's dumber people. Like you're hearing wet cum sock footsteps outside of your bathroom stall and weird banging on the door that is way too slow to be a person. If that doesn't make you like zip your mouth, maybe you deserve to fucking die. But anyway, thank God Mr. Widemouth Senpai is here because, he's one of the main characters. So at least I think he is, because everyone else just has no screen time at all, at least in comparison to him. Like we've literally followed him throughout the story, if not the entire story. So yeah, I think it's a good thing that he went to go save her because, he's probably the main character. So there's no way that he can die right now. Oh, he's actually dying right now. I actually cannot believe that they did that. I mean, like, Kool-Aid as an effect for blood? Come on, man. Okay, but seriously, I did not expect Widemouth Senpai to be the first one to die. He quite literally had the most screen time, and we followed him around the entire time. And he also has the most character traits. Like everyone else is just a student. At least Widemouth Senpai is a creep and a student. So anyway, Twin Tails over here overhears her senpai getting ripped into pieces. And of course, since it's a horror movie, she unlatches the door and she goes to investigate. And honestly, at this point, I don't care if she dies. I'm already mad. You literally heard the most blood-curdling scream out of anyone that has ever screamed in your entire life. You heard ominous footsteps, weird banging, and the first thing you're gonna do is go out and investigate? Shut the fuck up, dude. No. Dude, call me a pussy all you want, but if I was in her case, I would just sit there. I would camp it out, dude. I would camp it out till the whole weekend is over. And the thing that sucks is, like, it's not even the senpai's fault. Like, it's her fault. Like, I know you had to pee, but I'm pretty sure there was an old coffee mug in the club room. Now, as she starts investigating the area, she starts peeking out of the corner. And before she clears the area of the, the monster that brutally murdered your friend, she just starts calling out for her senpai's name. Like, shut the fuck up. Dude, God forbid this movie was The Quiet Place. She would have turned into mincemeat immediately. But anyway, she ends up finding his body. And then she starts screaming, which I think in this case is pretty valid. I can't show the footage, but Mr. Widemouth Senpai is just absolutely obliterated. I mean, I'm talking about pieces of his face are just everywhere. I think the best way to describe this scene is if you took like a red Skittle and you like lay it on a table and you like crush it. You know how like that white sugary part like squeezes out and the skin of the Skittle kind of like splinters out? It's kind of like that. Yeah, this guy got fucked. Like, I'm talking about pieces of his face are just like peeled off and they're just everywhere. Also, she also ends up like picking it up by accident, which I thought was pretty hilarious. Anyway, of course, she was screaming every single time that she would look at him. So obviously the monster is right behind her. Oh, wow. It's actually not behind her. I lied. I feel like I'm an asshole to laugh at this, but when the monster just starts full on sprinting at her, the scene is just so goofy. Like there's this very specific like theme song that it plays whenever the monster's on the screen, and it's just like and also all he does is just pick her up in his mouth and just lobs her in the bathroom. But the funny thing is, like right after he does that, the monster just like resets his position like a Gmod T-pose. Like after he just killed 2 children, he just forgot what he was doing. Like he was just doing it for fun or something. Hey, maybe this was intentional, you know, like this was based off of a game, and that's, you know, like what monsters do in games. They like kill you and then they just like sit there and they're like, I had to blink right there. I will say this though, I'm glad she's fucking dead. Not because she's like annoying or stupid or a woman, but honestly, just because of that stupid audible inner monologue. Like genuinely, I can't stand people like that on the train. Only I should be able to voice my inner thoughts. But anyway, since she screamed like 8 fucking times, the entire rest of the club starts running towards them. And when they find the bodies, I hate to ruin the mood, but it is hilarious how the most emotion that they convey after seeing 2 of their friends just being torn into mincemeat is just their eyes getting like slightly bigger. Like it literally just looks like this. Also, everyone just like has the same exact face. And I've never noticed like how much it affects the scene, because this just looks downright stupid. Like just imagine if My Hero Academia only had one face design, and that face design is All Might's face design. And everybody else in My Hero Academia just has different hairstyles and outfits, but they all just have the same face. Like it just takes the immersion out of the show, and it looks dumb and not scary. Immediately after, the student who looks the most like a Wii character starts accusing of Ao Oni, talking about its existence and the potential of it actually being the reason why everyone's dead. And I'm pretty sure at this point in the movie, I'm pretty sure he's my favorite character now. And I actually took the time out of my day to remember his name. His name is Kaneko, I think. But anyway, like I said, he starts accusing of the Ao Oni, and immediately everyone's against it. Dude, this guy is giving a literal theatrical performance about the Ao Oni actually being real. I'm talking about JoJo poses, expressions, the whole act. And then he gets slapped. The group tries to leave the building, but the doors and the windows just don't open. So they find an empty classroom and they start barricading up the door. And in terms of survival, I think so far so good. But I'm just still so confused on why they gave Widemouth Senpai so much screen time and so much, like, I guess, character development or character traits. He's just a creep. And to be fair, he's the most useful one there. He could probably smell the monster coming. But then he just got off screen. So now we're stuck with this group of characters where we literally don't give a shit about nor know anything about. The nurse ends up remembering that Tachibana is in the building, so she wants to go find him because she's super worried about him. And Kaneko is the only person in the entire group who's bewildered by the idea of them splitting up, because obviously that's fucking stupid. There's a monster out there. He even brings up the point that maybe there isn't even an Ao Oni monster. Like they still don't know what killed the 2 kids. So he mentioned how maybe the murderer is actually a human being and how it could be Tachibana, which I feel like makes perfect sense. And even though the rest of the group is like in denial about Tachibana, I'm still very glad that Kaneko is like out here stating facts and theories. To me personally, he's the only sane one in the building. The nurse still insists to go outside, so they end up splitting the group up with generic MC going with the nurse, and they end up going to Tachibana's underground chemistry room. And in that room, they end up finding Tachibana unconscious on the floor. He ends up pointing at the door and he said that it ran away. They end up getting back to the room safely, but before they went inside, Kaneko actually asked him a really smart question. He double checked and asked if it was actually them. Like think about it, you're dealing with an unknown monster and you have no idea what it could do other than it could probably turn you into mincemeat in like a snap. And one of the abilities, who knows, could possibly just be audibly copying a person. I've seen tons of shows where they do this. It's like that hypothetical scenario where like you go into the sewers with your friend one day and then you guys both come out on the other side, but in reality it's not actually your friend but rather a monster who replaced him, and your friend is dead in the sewer. I feel like that's like an actual plot to a couple of movies. Anyway, generic MC starts interrogating Tachibana on the monster in the basement, and bam, we got a bunch of exposition, or I should say lore dump, because exposition is like the beginning of a storyline. Tachibana starts talking about his life, and in short, it's revealed that Tachibana was actually the son of the club's senpai that killed his wife, and he was also the one that was obsessed with the Bellflower Mountain, which by the way is like the mountain behind the school where the monsters are taking place. That's what the story is called, the Bellflower story. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. And just a quick reminder like about everything in case you forgot this very forgettable plot. Long story short, when the club was looking for the original tape of the Ao Oni story, which was for their project, they were looking for 2 upperclassmen who recorded the original tape. Tachibana reveals that one of the 2 upperclassmen that was actually recording the tape was one actually his father. Apparently his father found something in the Bellflower Mountain, and it was apparently so good that he wanted to find it again. Even after getting a job and a wife and a living, he still couldn't move on, which is like kind of sad to me. Like imagine marrying someone who you think is like the love of your life and all they're thinking about is like some blue PNG monster. But because of his mother dying and his father missing, Tachibana went to this specific school to try to find what his father was searching for in the mountain. Generic MC then starts accusing of Tachibana of murdering the author of Ao Oni, because out of the entire group, the only two other people that knew about them talking to the author of Ao Oni was the nurse and Tachibana. But Tachibana says that he didn't, but at the same time, he starts having like memory loss issues about something. And the last thing that he mentioned was taking a flower, when all of a sudden, in case you can't tell, that is the Twin Tails girl talking behind the door, asking them to open it. And for some reason, the president, who totally didn't see her dead body a while ago, goes to open the door. Honestly, I think this is like the only part of the movie that I was like somewhat spooked. I think monsters mimicking humans is an absolutely terrifying thing, and I think they pulled it off decently well here. I will say though, the music that they play for the Ao Oni monster is so fucking repetitive. It's like if the Ao Oni was like a WWE wrestler, and every single time he comes out on stage, he just played the dun 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 dun. And also shout out to my boy Konica, who literally called it out at the beginning. He literally tested out the audio copying mechanism thing that the Ao Oni does. If anyone deserves to live out of this entire group, it is him. But obviously we know that he's gonna die, because smart people always die. Anyway, for some reason, the monster just leaves out of nowhere and pops out the teacher, which was really weird. If you don't remember, the teacher was the sponsor of the entire club. The generic main character actually realizes that the teacher is actually the other upperclassman on the tape recorder. And the teacher actually knew that Tachibana was the son of the other upperclassman. They do a lore dump, and it's revealed that eventually Tachibana's father actually found the bellflower monster, and he thought that the monster was a flower woman. And then they reveal the greatest plot point that I genuinely cannot believe, because it is so outrageous. Apparently, according to the bellflower tape, they revealed that if you have sex with the bellflower lady monster in the mountain, that you end up becoming the bellflower monster, which basically I think means if you have sex with a plant, you become the Ao Oni. What the fuck? Like, I know I say this in every video maybe, that I just cannot believe that the plot just took this turn. But dude, I cannot believe this plot just took this turn. So does that mean that every Ao Oni monster is just a horny dude? Like, dude, that must have been one sexy flower. Now, I didn't think this movie can get any more insane, but no, it does. The student council president asks if Tachibana happened to sleep with the bellflower creature. And out of nowhere, Tachibana does a complete 180. He ends up defending this creature, and we end up getting the most insane flashback that I've ever seen in my entire life. We get a flashback to Tachibana getting his banana sucked off by a flower. What the fuck? I did not need to see that. Like, I will say, watching the worst anime horror film wasn't in my to-do list until this month, but watching someone get sucked off by a flower wasn't ever going to be in my to-do list in any month. So right now, the ongoing theory is that this bellflower plant breeds with humans to make these monsters, and these monsters do like whatever that the plant wants. And so my smart boy Konica proposes that maybe if they kill the plant in the basement, then they kill the Ao Oni. It's a pretty solid plan, but then all of a sudden Tachibana starts morphing into another Ao Oni, and so the group starts running towards the main entrance since the teacher left it open, when bam, the original Ao Oni busts out and intercepts them, immediately killing the teacher. The main entrance ends up being locked, and so the group makes a run towards the basement, when all of a sudden, like, dude, that was the only person I wanted to live this entire movie. Like, he was the only person that had any brains at all, dude. The group ends up making it into the basement, and they break the glass, but stomping on the flower didn't kill it. The Ao Oni breaks open the door, and bam, its signature WWE intro music starts playing. Now, there's supposed to be this intense, like, searching scene of hiding away from the Ao Oni monster, but how can I pay attention when those calves are looking at me? So the Ao Oni starts looking around the room, and I just cannot watch this with a straight face. The monster just looks so goofy. Like, I think if I was there, like the two students hiding from the Ao Oni monster, I would die because I would burst out laughing. But anyway, the generic MC and the student president make a plan. Their plan is to use a lighter to burn the flower, with one of them distracting the monster. But as they execute this plan, for some reason, the lighter doesn't work. But luckily for us, the sensei still has the lighter that she got from Widemouth Senpai at the beginning of the movie. But all of a sudden, the flower grabs the president, meaning that in order to light up the flower, they need to probably get her out of it. So the MC does this like 15 FPS montage lunge to try to pull her out, which obviously doesn't work because it's a flower that can fuck humans, so it's probably really strong. But then out of nowhere, the nurse throws the lighter at the student, burning and killing the student and the flower all at the same time. That is absolutely insane, and also a very bad way to go out. I think the only thing like worse than burning to death is like drowning in mayonnaise. But hey, their plan ends up working. The Ao Oni lets free of the main character, but obviously the main character is upset because the nurse just threw the fire and killed the girl. I mean, I wouldn't even blame the nurse. Like, you couldn't even pull her out, so it's your fault. Even if you saved her, you probably would have ruined your lives with that weak ass pullout game. But then all of a sudden, in a random turn of events, the generic main character's head ends up flying off and a bunch of Kool-Aid starts spilling out as his lifeless body falls to the ground, and the nurse walks back the Ao Oni to the cage and locks him in. Surprise, the nurse was the villain the entire time. Don't you dare tell me that you expected it. There's no way you did, okay? But then out of nowhere, we cut to Konica walking to the roof of the school somehow alive. And that's my motherfucking boy right there. He ends up running into the nurse at the school rooftop. Turns out when the Ao Oni chased him, he actually hid in a hole in the floor and he got away. But then finally, the villain reveal. The nurse ends up burning the bellflower tape that they found and reveals that she was actually the bellflower monster lady that they were looking for the entire time. Apparently, humans have been trying to find them via folktales for a very long time, and so they invented the Ao Onis to fight back. And using their pollen from their flowers, they can like erase memories and even give commands. And that's how they killed the author of the game, by sending him a flower in the mail. And right before killing Konica, they revealed that the reason why there's a rumor of Tachibana sleeping with all of the students is because it's actually true. Remember, Tachibana was the one that got sucked off by a flower. And the reason why Tachibana has been sleeping with a bunch of girls is because the flower technically sees Tachibana as a bee. And what do bees do? Well, they pollinate. And in this case, that means that Tachibana has a bellflower STD, which he is spreading through having sex with a bunch of girls that are now going to be potent Ao Onis for the future. Yep. And then my favorite character dies. And the movie ends. That's Ao Oni, the animation. In short, I could just summarize this movie to: this is about a man who fucked a flower, ends up spawning a purple evil mutated Kirby that plays a WWE intro song whenever they show up, and they kill everyone. You know, despite the absurdity of this movie, I actually kind of enjoyed it. To be fair, I did watch Joker 2, so maybe that's why I enjoyed this. It actually had a plot. So yeah, even though having sex with a plant and seeing everyone die because of that decision is the plot, I guess it's about the Ao Onis we made along the way. But anyway, I'm tired, guys. I've been awake for like 18 hours now. I'm probably gonna sleep. But yeah, that's it for me. I hope you guys have a fantastic Halloween, and it's been Adrian, guys. I hope you yawned.